Saram Guruji, extending a warm welcome to season 2 of the Monday Morning Learning Podcast. Very honored to have you as my first guest this season. Guruji, I had professionals like strategy heads, HR heads, learning and leadership consultants, innovation heads, corporate lawyers, psychologists, and IPS officers as guests in season 1. This is the first time I'm having a spiritual master as my guest. I feel really honored to have you as my guest again, Guruji. Thank you so much. Uh, would you please share any welcoming comments before we proceed?
Thank you, Ravi. I think you're doing a wonderful job with this particular initiative, reaching out to so many people. And it is a first for me, in the sense this is the very first podcast, I suppose, that I'm being part of. So, in that way, it's going to be a very new and novel experience to me as much as to all of your listeners and to you yourself. So, thank you for having me here. My greetings to you and to all of your listeners, your audience.
Thank you so much, Guruji. So I'll begin with your introduction for the audience, and this will be followed by an overview of the objectives and themes for season 2. After that, we'll proceed with the podcast questions, Guruji. So Acharya Sri Satchitananda Sai, affectionately known as Gurudeva, is a spiritual master who holds forth eloquently with the authority and authenticity of his own experience and his thorough knowledge of the scriptures. Sri Satchitananda Sai manages the Gnana Vedanta Institute based on its guiding motto, Inner Peace Through Right Understanding. Gurudeva's teachings are based upon the spiritual treasure of Vedanta, an ancient philosophy based upon the timeless wisdom of the Vedas and sages of India. It reveals the true nature of existence, our relationship with God, and our purpose in life. Gurudeva has conducted several in-person and online programs across Australia, transmitting this wisdom. These programs reveal how we can live our lives in perfect contentment regardless of our individual circumstances. Gurudeva conducts satsangs when he visits India and the US on a variety of topics. The audience include professionals, students, kids, and homemakers. Gurudeva is a devotee of Bhagwan Sri Satya Sai Baba and is an alumni of Sri Satya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. He's worked professionally for over 15 years in the US, Australia, and India.
The reality, actually, if you ask me, is that there is a lot of unity and harmony present naturally in people. If you look at people everywhere, people generally dislike conflict. Nobody likes fighting, nobody likes conflict. Recently, when I was in India and I was traveling around to so many places, I found such extraordinary, exemplary situations of religious harmony and unity. We had gone on a pilgrimage to Sri Shailam, for instance, recently, and we encountered people of another religion, but so affectionate, so loving. In fact, they did not see themselves as different to us. And we also naturally did not feel any such sense of separation that they belong to another religion or another caste and so on. This is grassroots. This is the reality, this is the ground reality. People are actually longing for harmony. When you speak about influencers and so on, now the choice of being influenced is ours. Nobody can force an influence upon us. For instance, now we are doing this podcast. Now, whatever I am saying is entirely a person's choice to take on and be motivated about or not. And when it comes to all of these influencers, as you say, whether in all of those various fields that you just listed, the one thing that I would recommend everybody to understand, people who are listening, I cannot, I'm not talking to the influencers right now, I'm only talking to those who are, I suppose, being influenced. And perhaps there are influencers too in this audience, and then they may then take this on board as well. The thumb rule, I would say, is if someone speaks for unity, then by all means be influenced by such a person. But anyone who is speaking about division, check within yourself. Do you feel comfortable with division? Do you feel comfortable with conflict? I would say by and large, for most people, no. There are murkier issues in this. You may then say, well, what about people who are wrong, or people who may not actually stick to the law and so on, so should we not take a stand? That's a completely different story altogether. I am talking because you spoke about unity in diversity. That is something that I practically, literally saw with my own eyes and then experience over the last month and a half when we were in India, where we traveled to several places and we found that unity in the midst of all the diversity, active, vibrant, still alive. And so if we just go back to what we feel comfortable with, really speaking, then we will naturally gravitate towards that unity, that harmony. Now, when you say today's youth are impressionable, the first thing I would like to make a little amendment to that is youth per se have always been impressionable. Since times immemorial, it is youth that have been capable of being molded and therefore have become potent and vibrant instruments of change when they grow up and attain positions of authority or power or influence. So it is not just limited to today's age. The other thing you said is people like Swami Vivekananda, who are such powerful role models. There is still no dearth for role models even today. I do not wish to take names because then that will become another controversial thing. But there are plenty of inspiring leaders and role models in Bharat as well as across the world, in several fields. It is not necessarily restricted to any one particular field or so. In every field that you choose to be, there are enough number of people that are doing excellent and wonderful job. As far as youth are concerned, who should they listen to? Again, if you ask me, my thumb rule there is listen and be influenced, if you choose to, by those who spearhead unity, not diversity, not disharmony or discord. What you need is that sense of intelligence or common sense, really, to say united we stand, whether as a country, whether as a family, wherever, whatever the case may be, whichever grouping you are in, you find yourself, and you will always find united we stand. And so that is the influence that we should be really taking upon us. And youth especially are impressionable. That is why sometimes, unfortunately, we do see that they are also taking to not so right paths, which lead to division, which lead to a lot of disasters in their own lives later on. But then again, the common sense rule, I think, is if someone is advocating unity, let us all come together and be together, because see, that is the great tradition of our country, of Bharat. Vasudeva Kutumbakam. Not just India alone, we said the entire universe, the entire world is our family. Everybody in the world is our family. In Tamil, there was a great saint who said, Yadum ure yavarum kelir. The meaning of that is, every place is our place and everyone is our person only. So when we approach life like that, then it becomes so much better for everybody, more harmonious for everybody. At the end of the day, you want to be happy. So you've got to start using your common sense, because nobody else can make you happy. You've got to understand that very, very clearly. Nobody else can make you happy. God himself cannot make you happy if you choose to be miserable. He can shower his grace upon you, he can do whatever he can, but if you choose to be miserable and moping about everything, nobody can help you. So in the end, your happiness is in your hands. And every youth is not only restricted to youth, actually. Every person should understand this. Your happiness is in your hands, and therefore you should use your intelligence to see what will make me happy in the long term. Again, if I am going to go back and say, it is not just something that is restricted to modern age. Stress and worry have always been there. I mean, if you go back to Mahabharata, Yudhishthira had to face job security, unemployment. He was a king, and in the end, because of certain things that happened when he went and played the game and so on, he was sent to the forest. He had to go into the forest. Lord Rama, what was the job security for him? Tell me. One day he was chosen to become the king, next day he was fired. They gave him the pink slip and said, go to the forest. So if you think this is modern, no, this is not modern. This has always been there. And that is why we go into our Puranas and learn from our scriptures. They are relevant, they are valid for this reason. Nobody perhaps looks at it in this form. But if you really look at it, Rama was, what is the word you people use? Retrenched. Rama was laid off from his job. He was to be given a job, he didn't even get to probation, poor fellow. He was already laid off. Yudhishthira at least was ruling, and then he was also laid off. Pandavas, the leader of the Pandavas. So we find that this is something that has been historically happening. So job insecurity has always been there, stress has always been there, financial troubles and insecurity have also always been there. Then how do we deal with it? When you go back and find out how they dealt with it, we will also realize how we can deal with it. In fact, we have it better off now with so many so much technology around us, so many conveniences around us. It is easier for us, if you ask me, to deal with these problems than those who, the ancients. In my opinion, this entire divide between then and now, Bharat in those days and Bharat now, has to be given up. Bharat now is in no way worse off than Bharat then, nor is it any better than then. We are just as capable as always, as we have always been. So we should first give up this mindset that somehow we have deteriorated, that somehow we are in a very sad or a very confusing plight. Not at all. We are as poised to capture the world as we always have been. And I am not very specifically speaking only of Bharat alone. Every person everywhere in the world is free to choose this kind of a path for themselves. In the again end of the day, what do you want? Do you want to be happy? If you want to be happy, then you've got to find ways and means to remain happy even when all of these insecurities are going on. So when we look at Rama's life, for instance, what did he do? When he was laid off, he took it as a vacation. He said, all right, I will go to the forest and I will make do there. I will go for a 14-year long vacation, he said. Was it easy? No, it is not easy. But then if somebody chooses to go camping, they want to go trekking in the Himalayas, so trekking in the forests and the wild, what conveniences are going to be there? Nothing. But then they have the idea that they are choosing it of their own volition, and therefore they are enjoying their time with it. Whereas if they have to be sent to the forest, they will be whinging and crying all the time throughout the forest. This is just human mindset. See, another example, if somebody picks your pocket and steals 500 rupees, you will complain, come and complain to everybody possible. On the other hand, if you take 500 rupee note and give it to somebody for some charity, you see some cause worthy and you just give it, you will come and tell everybody how proudly you gave 500 rupees away. End of the day, you are less by 500 rupees. That is the end of the bottom line. But the way it happened is what is making you either happy or sad. So that's something that can be changed. That is something that can be changed. That is simply a thought. That is simply a mindset. That is where you touch upon the very core of what I have dedicated my life to: inner peace through right understanding. Yes, the external world is constantly changing. It is uncertain. There is nothing that you can say will remain the same way forever. Everything is changing. We look around the world, we see not only here in our country but every country. As you look around, you see so much is changing overnight, and nobody has got any guarantee that things will remain as they are now, as they are today. In fact, a few years ago when we had this big pandemic of COVID, that upended everybody's life, and all of a sudden we had never lived through such a thing in our lifetimes, and all of a sudden the world itself shut down. Nobody would have imagined such a thing happening, but it did happen, and if it has happened once, it can happen again. So what first thing we have got to do is we have to be ready to face the uncertainties of this world. A little while ago you just mentioned even the very thought of unemployment is shaking people to the core. See, that should not happen. You shouldn't be frightened by the mere thought of things. On the other hand, if you do not think about it, how will you prepare for it? Just because you have a job now, I am not saying that you have got to be constantly worried and frightened that tomorrow you lose your job, but face the possibility mentally. You create a mental laboratory, if you will, a mental lab, and you conduct simulation experiments in that lab. Okay, suppose I have lost my job tomorrow, what am I going to do? Face it, work out scenarios, work out what you will do. Perhaps that entire simulation, that working out itself, will give you adequate solutions that you can prepare. Maybe you can cross skill yourself, maybe you can go and invest in something, diversify your investment, so to say. Maybe you can reduce the costs of some of your household expenditures or your lifestyle itself in preparation for that. If you never and think about it at all, and one day you do lose your job, then everything will come crashing down and you are ill prepared, ill equipped to face that situation. So first and foremost, actually if you ask me, run mental simulations of your worst fears. Run, it is not real, it is only mental. If you say the word fire, your tongue is not going to get burnt. So don't be afraid that you are going to make it happen by thinking about it. That is not how it is. You are just preparing for it. In the eventuality, what will I do? How will I face it? The very idea, you're thinking about it, that itself will give strength to you. First, this is at a mental level. That alone is not enough. Then at a spiritual level, one has got to equip oneself. Somewhere, somehow, one has to enter into the path of spirituality, no matter who they are. Belief in God or not is secondary. Spirituality has got very little to do with God per se. It is divinity, it is the spirit, rather than a particular name or a form of a god or a religion and so on. That is why we always say religion and spirituality as two different entities. So spirituality is seeking one's own reality, going within and being grounded in one's own self. Take it as you will. In the deepest sense, it is understanding the truth of who you are as the Atma. But even in a superficial level, it is being comfortable with who you are, not always being insecure about the external world or people outside and so on. It is on the other hand having Atma Vishwasa, self confidence. In English we call it self confidence, in all our Indian languages we call it Atma Vishwasa, which literally translates to faith in the Atma, in the reality that we are. We are not this frightened, scared and worried and anxious and depressed person that we are. On the other hand, the Shastras say, the Upanishads say, Amritasya putraha shrunvantu vishve amritasya putraha. It says we are children of immortality, we are children of God, we are children of immortality, we are children of light, of happiness. That is our real nature. So unless we make some efforts to delve deep within and find this truth for ourselves, first listen to this truth, again and again repeatedly find opportunities and avenues to listen to this truth being expounded. There are several people in this world who are currently doing it. Then start contemplating upon the truth in your own life and find the truth for yourself and abide in it, live in it. This we call in Vedanta as Shravana, Manana and Nididhyasana. Shravana, getting to know about it; Manana, contemplating upon it; and Nididhyasana is putting it into practice. The moment we hear Sanskrit words, some people may be put off. But this is what you do in life too. If you go to school, if you go to college, you are listening, then you're studying, you're regurgitating, you're contemplating on it, and then you're ultimately putting it into practice. This happens in every field. And that is the way by which we can prepare ourselves. What do we do when rainy season comes? Everywhere they will say now the rainy season has come or winter is coming, it is the time of flu and virus and so on. Increase your immunity. You can't avoid the virus that is outside, but you can increase your immunity. Similarly, you may not avoid the stress or insecurity, but you can increase your stress immunity, if you will. Youth is for fun and frolic and old age is for spirituality. But we actually begin our retirement planning from first standard in school. We want to get into a good school, we want to study a good course and get a good job so that later on we'll be happy. So all of us do this, isn't it? All of us do this. And then in that case, if we are actually not spending our youth in fun and frolic. School going years are one of the worst, if you ask me. All the time so much study, so much exam, and nowadays especially it is becoming even more so. There is more and more of coaching classes and various kinds of entrance examinations, so much of stress actually. And then they go to university, study, then they want higher education, go abroad for that. So nearly 25 years of one's life, at least the minimum of one's initial life, is spent only in preparing for the last 25 years. If that is the case, why not with spirituality too? We actually want peace not after retirement, no, we want it even now. I mean, if you only want peace after retirement, then that is sure, you can definitely do that. It is your prerogative and your choice. You say, I am willing to postpone enjoying peace after I am retired at 70. Until then, I am willing to be stressed and depressed and running around like a headless chicken, not knowing what is going on and where. I mean, if everybody is happy with that, that's a different story. But when we know we are not, when we want peace now, when we actually want to enjoy our life, we actually want to enjoy our life. You said youth is for enjoyment, but if youth is filled with stress, where is the time for enjoyment even there? We are actually seeing, no, people are working hard to buy big houses and better cars, but most of the time is spent at work, very little time is spent at home and in the car. All the money is being earned for this house and all the time is spent in the office. Even if they come home, they are still on their computer only. The other day when I was, as I said, I was in India, we were coming back from somewhere and I saw in the car next to me somebody was driving. He is the driver also, but he was on a Zoom call. He is stuck in traffic in the Zoom call. So on the one hand he is negotiating traffic, on the other hand he is negotiating the call. It didn't seem a very happy, very good car. The car was a very posh car, but the man didn't seem very happy sitting inside that car. So you can't afford to wait until you are old to be happy. You've got to be happy now. And there is short term happiness and there is long term happiness. If you are not interested in long term happiness, you will choose short term happiness, be happy today and now, and then be sad tomorrow. Or you can choose to be happy today and tomorrow. These are the options. You can be unhappy today and unhappy tomorrow. This is one option. You can be happy today, unhappy tomorrow. Second option. You can be happy today and tomorrow. Which is the option you would choose? Isn't it? This is just common sense. So if we can apply common sense, then we will know that we have to take that path which will bring me lasting joy and happiness today, tomorrow, and forever until my last living day. Said that I didn't share my double promotion. In those days there was no social media. Even if it were there, of course I would not have chosen to. But dealing with people is actually one of the easiest things to do. Many years ago, 2000 odd years ago to be precise, a person called Jesus Christ said very clearly how you should deal with people management. He said, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. That is the sum and substance of people management, if you ask me. How you want to be treated, treat others the same way. If you want to feel welcomed, then you welcome others. If you want to be treated with respect, then you treat others with respect. This is so simple. It is only when we become puffed up with our own achievements and a sense of superiority that we will start looking down upon others or comparing ourselves with others and feeling demotivated if they are better than us and so on. That is not necessary at all, especially when it comes to work. We spoke about so much of lack of guarantees and certainties in life. Wherever you are working, you yourself do not know how many years you will continue to choose to work there. You might yourself get a better option and leave from there. So whatever all said and done, this is not like in those early days in India or wherever, where people got a job and they stuck to it until they retired. I have known people who entered jobs as clerks and retired as general managers in the same company. Now that's no longer the case. So you're in there for a period of time. Why not enjoy that period of time? Why not make that short period of time happy for yourself and happy for everybody else around you? I have found when I was managing people that the best way to do it was to treat each person with love. With love. That is all. Everybody deserves love, no matter who they are. And I have always found in wherever I worked, whether it was in America or whether it was here in Australia or whether it was in India, wherever I worked, when I approached everybody with love, irrespective whether they were Americans, whether they were white Americans, black Americans, Australians here, Indians, wherever, whoever, everybody responded well to love. And what is love? Love is caring, love is understanding where the other person is coming from. And we are all busy, no doubt about it, but it doesn't take very long to put yourself even a little bit into the other person's position, into their shoes as it were, and to see where they are coming from. If you understand that, or something very simple, just inquire about them. If you just remember things about them and inquire about them, you know how happy people are. Oh, the other day you said your mother was not well, is she all right? The man himself may have forgotten that his mother was not well, but when he remembers, he says, sir, you remembered. She is very fine, sir, thank you. That one interaction, I tell you, will do something, will do a magic. It doesn't take much. We remember so many things, so much of useless things we remember actually, if you ask me. You throw all of those out. Remember things about your colleagues, your fellow workers. Remember their birthdays, maybe remember the names of their children. Remember what sometimes during lunch or during some break, we share these things with each other. Make a note of it, remember it. It takes a bit of effort, but this is people management for you. Everything can't be done only in terms of numbers and statistics. People are not computers. People have feelings, people have emotions. In the end, those actually rule more than, unfortunately, the head. It is the head versus heart conundrum, where sometimes logic and emotions, logic should win, logic should work, but not always. Logic rarely works actually. For most people, they work out of emotions. Then appeal to those emotions, and it is not difficult. You just need to have that amount of love for them, that amount of friendliness for them, that concern for them, that care for them. And it doesn't have to be only juniors or subordinates, it's peers, it is your superiors even. It doesn't have to be anybody, even if it is your boss or somebody. If he has expressed a problem one day, you can always go and say, sir, I hope all your problems are solved now, you were talking about it that day. But don't do it so that you win favors from him. That's a different ball game altogether. It will not cut, because he will also know that you are merely sucking up to him. When there is genuineness and sincerity, it can be appreciated and understood. It takes a bit of effort to be a little bit more selfless than we are. When we are selfish, we cannot manage people. The ABC of managing people is first step out of your own little world. You cannot manage somebody if you do not either include him into your world or go into his world. I will stay in my cubicle, you stay in yours, I will manage you. How is this possible? So that way, actually, all the stress and all these things, you will find. There was actually a research done in America, and they found out that people who volunteered for various causes, basically who stepped out of their own comfort zone, stepped out of their own selfish circle, were less prone to stress, or were able to deal with stress much better. These were the findings that they had. So if we are able to to some extent be a little bit more selfless, a little bit more caring, you will start finding it working miracles in your life. You don't have to immediately go around asking everybody, whole day spending around, oh, how are you, how are you, how are you. No, any person that you encounter, as a matter of your job, as a matter of your course, as a matter of your life, inquire about them with a smile. That's very important. That's very, very important. The easiest thing by which you can make somebody happy is just give a smile to them. What that smile can do is something. In fact, just to share a little anecdote, when I was working back in India at the time, there was a person who had come from America. He had come offshore, and he was staying there for about a month or so, and my manager allocated me as a coordinator. I wasn't looking after any other needs, just in office, all his accommodation and food, everything was taken care of by other departments. I just had to look after the work related stuff with him, and I just did that. At the end of the month, he had left a note for me, a card and a note, and he said, just your smile made me look forward to coming into office every day. And that was such a remarkable statement coming from that person. I mean, it was big. It was to say, I actually look forward to coming into work for your smile. But even for him to say that, I realized then how important it is to just have a nice, friendly, loving, genuine smile, not a plastic smile, and not a fixed plastic insincere smile. A genuine smile can work wonders.
Given the kind of insights you are sharing, we'll definitely come up with new themes and would re-invite you for my next podcast again, Guruji. Thank you so much, Guruji. Honored to host you on my podcast. Sir.